Okay, well, I think we'd like to begin our presentation here for this keynote to be respectful of everyone's time. Very happy to welcome you to the first session of this Berkeley Global Virtual Study Abroad Fair. My name is Sam Smith. I'm a programs manager here in the K-12 division.
My name is Henry Zhang, and I'm the director of Global K-12 programs at UC Berkeley.
And our session today really focuses on two things. First, it's an exploration of study abroad, the advantages of studying internationally or in a new location. And then we'll also sort of focus on the advantages that Berkeley offers to people who come to study, to spend a semester, a year, or longer here in our Berkeley Global programs. So we're very excited to be here. We just want to remind you all that you can use the Q&A function to ask questions directly to Henry and myself, and then feel free as well to use the chat function to interact as we go through this presentation.
Yes, Sam, I want to ask you, did you study abroad when you were in college? Like, how did you choose a program?
Yeah, I studied abroad as an undergraduate and as a graduate student. So I spent a semester in South Africa and Namibia as an undergrad studying international relations. And then I actually completed my master's degree abroad as well at a program in China. And so how I chose those was actually based on a few different considerations. And generally, we know that people who are considering, people who like the participants in this keynote who are interested in studying abroad, pay attention to a few different things. So they're looking for cultural experiences that are different from where they're coming from. They're looking for a country or a location that they're particularly interested in. They're looking for specific programs of study. And then for me, especially as a graduate student, I was looking for a school and a program that could really help me launch my career as someone who is interested in international relations and international education. So we know that these attitudes are generally held throughout the world and have kind of been what's driving international education, not just for my generation, which was unfortunately quite a long time ago, but for the current generation and for future generations as well. So that's really the core of international education, that idea of finding that really excellent school, that really excellent program that can help push you to the next, your next thing.
So, Sam, you talk about excellent schools, right? I mean, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about, school rankings, because this is going to affect you in terms of whether or not your study abroad experience helps your resume, helps you for graduate school or your job, right? Most of us are familiar with the US News rankings, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't necessarily go and look at the global rankings. The best universities are also in US News, right?
Right. So what's the difference there?
Well, the global rankings are different because you're now comparing schools from universities from all over the world, right? So you have to have new criteria. And they just went around the world and asked professors and university leaders and said, just what are the best universities in the world, right, academically? And so they had a ranking of over 1,500 universities in 60 different countries. And the results were kind of interesting. If you look on the list, obviously you're looking at some of the most famous universities in the world, right? Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, Oxford, Columbia, Princeton, Cambridge. So this is a pretty impressive list. I think for all of us at Berkeley, we're pretty happy and honored to be among these top schools.
Right. Yeah. Something that it's really impressive to me, just having been at Berkeley for a short time, is how Berkeley manages to be so highly ranked in this best global universities list while still managing to balance, its mission as a public university, which is something that, these private institutions aren't necessarily having to deal with when they think about the way that they approach their academics. So, and the, professional opportunities. So yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Well, Berkeley obviously has world-class teachers, right? Top professors, but you know the other universities do too. So I feel like it's kind of interesting question of what is the difference? You know, how do you decide which top universities you're going to go to? I mean, they're obviously all great, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. And so, you know, we're going to start to now kind of think about this concept of study abroad and those drivers that I mentioned before. So, you know, clearly there are other great universities that are in different locations. So you have this idea of the U.S. college town. So it's remote, it's historical, it's beautiful, it's out in the woods or the wilderness. You're there with your classmates, with your professors. You know, in a lot of places, the college is the town is the college. And that works for some people. That's great. But now I want you to look at this slide. This is just the background to our presentation. And we left this blank simply to illustrate that there's a different experience that you can get when you study abroad in the United States. There's an experience that takes you directly into the city, directly into a urban, cosmopolitan, diverse setting. And so that's really the appeal of the Berkeley campus. So if we think about the opportunities that students have to have a cultural experience, you're talking about being in the San Francisco Bay Area, being close to innovation, being close to density, where creativity happens. So, you know, you're also in the midst of a really beautiful natural environment. So you've got the Golden Gate Bridge, you've got the beautiful Berkeley campus, this iconic Sather Tower. And so you're able to kind of balance not just the college environment, but also the built environment. And so that's something that we think is really attractive here. And not only that, but you're able to go to places that in some sense could feel like home. You know, so you've got Chinatown, you've got beautiful neighborhoods in San Francisco, and all of this exists so close to Berkeley and helps make Berkeley a really wonderful destination for students. So you've also got, you know, America's greatest national treasure, Stephen Curry, coming back from injury next year, Henry, once the NBA returns. Yeah, and so you've got a great new arena for Stephen and Andrew Wiggins to be playing in. And you've got other professional sports teams, obviously, in the area, but certainly the pride of the Bay Area are the Warriors. We had to put them in our presentation. And then you've also got the opportunity to go outside of the city and get to sort of the natural beauty of California. So you've got places like Yosemite National Park and Highway 1, just a few hours drive from Berkeley. So as a destination, it really is an important place in America. And then obviously without places like Berkeley, there would be no Silicon Valley. So another aspect of being in the Berkeley environment is being close to some of the world's best companies. And Henry's going to touch on this later, but you have Apple's global headquarters, you have Alphabet Google's global headquarters very close by. And so when you're studying at Berkeley as a destination, you also have the opportunity to kind of access this Silicon Valley vibe. So, you know, the thing is that anywhere you go, you're going to get course content. So if you study abroad, anywhere in the United States, you're going to be exposed to a different type of teaching, potentially, a different type of assessment than you might be used to. And that's actually good. You know, that'll help build your academic resume. But the difference with Berkeley professors, as we'll talk about, is that they're bringing real world experience. They're exposing you to cutting edge research and knowledge. And they're incredibly accomplished. They're incredibly involved in sort of that ecosystem, the Bay Area ecosystem that I discussed. So, you know, Henry, this list is not accurate, I noticed, because just today there was one more Nobel Prize winner from Berkeley added to this list. But again, if you look at this list of Nobel Prize winners by university, you can see that Berkeley ranks very highly. And again, in comparison to these other schools, Berkeley, as a public university, actually manages to really perform incredibly well in relation to places like Harvard, Cambridge, Stanford, Caltech, and so on. So, there's actually so many Berkeley faculty and alumni that have won Nobel Prizes that there's special reserved parking spots where only Nobel laureates can park. So Henry, you've been to the Berkeley campus. You've seen this in action.
Yeah, it's amazing. They get the best parking spaces right in the middle of campus. The rest of us are driving around. We don't have a place to park. You win a Nobel Prize and suddenly you have such a, convenient place right to park. I do want to congratulate, though, Professor Reinhard Genzel, who won the Nobel Prize in physics. So yeah, as Sam just mentioned, just today, just announced, another one added to the list.
Right. So what this means in practice is that these Berkeley research and teaching faculty and alumni are, kind of at the top of their game in terms of academics. Certainly a very well represented teaching faculty in terms of the National Academies of Science and other very prestigious academic organizations. And then you can see that here we've just listed a few other kind of notable medals, but you could talk about the recognition of the faculty, and alumni from Berkeley for quite a long time. So we don't have to spend our entire presentation talking about that, but the accomplishments of that group, of the people that you'll be potentially learning with and from, are certainly world-class, and that's something we're very proud of.
Sam mentioned a moment ago that Apple, Google headquarters are all in the Silicon Valley Bay Area, but there are only 2 of the hundreds and hundreds of companies that have made their headquarters in Silicon Valley. And so when you're that close, you have to think about it. The graduates of Berkeley are going to Silicon Valley companies. The leaders of Silicon Valley, in many cases, are coming back and teaching and supporting the business and the technology programs at a university like Berkeley. So this is just a great environment going back and forth. And as Sam mentioned before, if it wasn't for Berkeley and Stanford, Silicon Valley would not be where it is. It's the graduates of these universities that really made a difference. Now, one thing is, being in the state of California is a big difference, right? If California's economy were a country, if we separate out from the US, it would actually be the number 5 largest economy in the world, $3.1 trillion in GDP in 1 year. So this is an amazing amount of just technology, inventions, discoveries being made in just one place. So you're kind of right in the middle of that, which is pretty exciting. Next, one of the things I want to talk about is that Berkeley has a distinction of having bachelor's graduates that started the most companies compared to graduates of any other university in the world. Now let's think about that. That means that Berkeley graduates, people with bachelor's degrees, they, with their great ideas because they're great students, but also because of the support of the community, the business community, they're able to take their ideas. So if you're coming up with good ideas in school, you're able to kind of pitch that to different companies and get funding for that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that actually specifically. People think Silicon Valley is just known for technology companies like Apple and Google. What they don't realize is that there is more money to start a company in Silicon Valley than anywhere else. And what you have are these venture capitalist companies, VC companies. And what they do is they're actually going around and looking for ideas. So they will go to Berkeley's campus and look for students with good ideas. And if they think those ideas are good, they'll help them start a company. In fact, Berkeley has an incubator called Berkeley Skydeck that's right next to campus. And students or anyone else, professors who have good ideas, they can go to Skydeck and immediately they'll get support for people to actually start companies. I don't mean start little companies, like, just a little small company that you might have a little one store. I'm talking about, large companies where they're going to invest and try to get you onto the stock market. The next slide, we have list of the different companies that Berkeley had graduates had started by 2017. So 881 companies that are venture capital funded. So these are big companies, $14 billion raised in, by these companies. So this is like, it's an amazing environment, right? Where even students, graduates are able to get involved in this just massive discovery that's happening. One of the things I want to talk about is how this might affect all of you, right? You're thinking, well, you're not sure if you're going to start a company. Well, but you can do an internship in the company, right? You look for study abroad experiences, and people don't realize that you can often, along with study abroad, do internships. You can actually go to these companies and work while you're there. If you do well in your internships, you actually have an opportunity for OPT, optional practical training. Now, I'm going to describe this a little bit because it's actually quite important for all of you. OPT means if you study at Berkeley for 2 semesters, just 2 semesters, you can work at a company for 1 to 3 years after your 2 semesters using just your student visa. You don't even need a work visa. Now, I want to be clear, OPT is not internships. You are actually getting a full regular salary from these companies. So this is an amazing situation where, one, there's so many companies to do an internship with, and if they like you during the internship, they can keep you for a couple of more years and pay you the full regular salaries. This is not something that you're going to be able to do at a lot of universities. And the next thing I want to talk about is, well, after OPT, what happens? If you are really good and you're also interested in staying, you actually have an option of actually applying for a work visa. Next slide, I'm going to show you just what the opportunities are like in the state of California. If you look at all of the students that finished studies at Berkeley or in California, you'll see that 128,000 people were sponsored by companies to work. So a regular job in the state of California. So that's twice as much as Texas, which is the #2 state, right? So, and you'll notice that the average annual salary of those jobs in California are substantially higher than the other states. So there's more jobs available, there's more OPT opportunities available, and there's a higher salary for these. So you think you're here to study, but you don't realize so many people who come to study, even people who study abroad, they have a chance to stay and keep working and bring that experience back. So this is just, goes beyond just your regular work experience. Study experience. So the next slide, I'm going to talk real quick about, on top, people wondering, oh, are there fewer students studying abroad in the United States? And you can see the red line and kind of the teal, the blue line on top that shows that undergraduate and graduate numbers are really actually at the highest they've ever been. It's true that the last couple of years they've kind of been flat, but it's flat at a very, very high number, right? It's like over 400,000 students, undergraduate, international students in undergraduate programs. Now, the next line here, the gray one, you're going to see OPT, how the numbers going up. And I'm going to show the next slide here, where you can see from 2007 to 2019, whoops, let's go back one slide, Sam. 2007 to 2019, the number of students after they finish study who get a job in the United States, that number has like more than quadrupled. So that means the American companies really want these students to stay and work for them. The next slide, we show that there's actually some Berkeley Global programs right here that you can take as a study abroad student. If you do 2 semesters in any of these fields like finance, marketing, data science, you will have opportunity for OPT. So you can not only study, but you can work for a full salary while you're here. So that's something that you're not going to be able to do in a lot of universities. So let's kind of recap. In the next slide, we want to think, well, why do we want to study at Berkeley? Obviously, you want to learn from world-class teachers. And we mentioned before, you don't only have world-class teachers, you actually have like Nobel Prize winners that are on campus. The next thing is you want to strengthen your resume. Maybe it's for a job application or a graduate school application. This is where that prestige, the reputation that Berkeley has is really going to help you, right? Because people around the world are going to see that name and they're going to know it. It means like, oh, I know that university is high quality
Right.
university.
And also, Henry, the opportunity to, from point one, learn from these world-class teachers, to gain recommendations from them, to have their name on your letters of recommendation, is something that helps you get into those great grad programs, whether it's in the States or elsewhere. So the chance to be here in close proximity to these world-class teachers is something that gives you a huge boost.
Yeah, that's really great. We talked about the San Francisco Bay Area, Silicon Valley. Look, I mean, if you can study at a great university or visit a great city, wouldn't it be great that you can do both, right? And then at the same time, you're so close to so many companies that you might actually get an offer to work for a few years. I mean, I think it just puts it all together, right? It's just a wonderful combination of all of this. The pathway to work in the US, not a lot of study abroad programs are going to talk to you about this, except we know from so many of our students over the past years, they come to study for a semester or 2 semesters, and they actually get jobs here. So this is something that is actually a possibility for you. So it's really an exciting situation. I would say it's not something you can do at every university, but it's just the fortunate situation of the location of the school, combined with just high quality programs.
Right. Yeah. And so, in this short presentation, we've really gone over 2 ideas. First is the attractiveness of the Bay Area and of Berkeley as kind of a cultural institution, as an experience for you to come someplace and really enjoy yourself, and to be surrounded by this incredible group of teachers and your fellow students. And then we've also tried to illustrate, sort of, there's another, if it's not reason enough to study abroad here, there's also this aspect of being in Silicon Valley, of advancing professionally, of building a network, in one of the most important kind of dynamic business and technical environments in the world. So you have the opportunity now in this virtual study abroad fair to go back into the chat rooms, to talk to our Berkeley Global Advisors. You have the chance to download more materials, explore our websites, with this newfound, hopefully this understanding of how our programs can really become this gateway to Silicon Valley. So we're happy to take questions here. We're happy to talk with you, in any way that you're comfortable with. Please go into those virtual rooms and ask questions of our advisors. So we'll open it up now to your questions, and we're very very thankful for the opportunity just to discuss these Berkeley Global programs with you all. So thank you very much for attending.
Thanks. Yeah. If you have any question, please go ahead and type it in to the Q&A. Oh, okay, we have a question here from Anaya, right? So I'll ask, very keen on Berkeley. Thanks for the presentation. Can you take us through the admissions process?
I mean, I think, Anaya, thank you for the question. It would really sort of depend on the program that you're interested in, I think, first of all, in terms of the admission requirements. So if you know the program that you're interested in, I think the best thing to do is to visit that chat room, first of all, to ask for the specifics from those very knowledgeable advisors. But Henry, do you want to talk just maybe generally about sort of the admission process for the programs that we're offering and also for Berkeley campus?
Yeah, so most of the programs you're going to see are going to be on the website. And oftentimes there's a place where you can kind of put your name and an email in there. And usually what will happen is within a day, one of the advisors will actually directly reach out to you and kind of answer your questions. We try to be very personal, right? Okay, great. Computer engineering, I mean, that's a great field, right? So if you're an undergraduate student, you could probably, we have programs where you can come to Berkeley Obviously, some of these programs will be starting next year, but you have a chance to actually take courses with the Berkeley students. But the first thing you do is you get your name and your email in there, and then we can answer all kinds of questions for you about specific programs you want to do. If you have any more detail that you want to ask about, maybe that we can specifically focus. Okay, let's see. Hello, thanks for the presentation. I'm currently studying marketing in Brazil, and I'd like to know which programs you would recommend as graduate course in this area. Well, if you're studying marketing and you're a graduate student, we have a lot of professional programs, and maybe we can kind of jump back to one slide, although this isn't the full information, but back on one of our slides, we actually have a marketing program. We have product marketing, we have business development. So there's actually several programs depending on what you're interested in. Business and entrepreneurship is really kind of a specialty for Berkeley, right? Because so many of the students want an opportunity to work. And so, yeah, if you like, we have marketing, business development, product marketing, entrepreneurship. All of these things are areas that you can even expand into something slightly different if you want to do like project management or something else. But certainly marketing is a great field for you. Yeah, Sam just popped this back up. These programs, if you work for 2 semesters, you will have the opportunity for OPT in the United States. We have a question on the Q&A side here. Thanks for hosting this presentation. Are these programs and internships only for international students? I'm looking at the data science and private management programs. Actually, the answer is they are not only for international students. In fact, we do encourage students from the United States as well to take these same programs. I think a lot, right, Sam? A lot of students, they don't think they can study, in their own country, but that's kind of like changing now, right?
Right. So yeah, all of these programs would be open to students from inside the U.S. So in terms of studying away, which I think is what we're calling this new domestic, study abroad movement, I think that's a great idea. If you're coming from the United States, there's still a lot of value to be gained from being, as we've talked about, to move into the Silicon Valley space. So we're really excited about that. We're actually trying to be more open and explicit about the fact that these programs, all of our Berkeley global programs, are open to US students as well. And we're really trying hard there.
Let's see, we'll probably just take another minute in case anyone can think of any other questions. But yeah, if you're in these fields like project management, marketing, there's just so much you can do here, right? One of the things, Sam, I really like about the Berkeley area is that there is actually a lot of public transportation, right? So if you can come here, we have the BART, right? Bay Area Rapid Transit. So right from the front gate of Berkeley, you can take essentially a subway, right? That goes right into San Francisco. The new line is even going down to Silicon Valley, to the South Bay and these areas. So for students who are, may not be driving, it's actually pretty convenient for the most part. Okay, well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to share this information with you. Sam, thank you very much for—
Yeah, thanks, Henry. Thanks for giving me the chance. I hope that this was helpful. Again, we really encourage you to go back out and interact with our advisors. They're going to be the ones to answer those questions, and we hope to see you in our programs sometime soon.
Okay, yeah, see you in Berkeley sometime. Thanks. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.